Hello and welcome, dear friends. We are so grateful that you've chosen to spend your time with us today. Your support truly keeps these stories alive, and we don't take it for granted. Before we begin, may we kindly ask a small favor? Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It may seem like a simple act, but it truly helps us grow, and we believe with all our hearts that God will bless you richly for supporting us. We'd also love for you to stay with us all the way to the end, because this story is filled with twists, turns, and a powerful ending you won't want to miss. So sit back, relax, and join us as we begin. On my 35th birthday, the silence was deafening. Not a single text. Not a single call. My phone, which usually lit up with work notifications and the occasional message from old friends, sat like a cold slab of glass on the kitchen counter. My family, people I had spent years trying to please, support, and protect, had ghosted me completely. For a while, I tried to convince myself it was just a delay. Maybe they were planning something special. Maybe they had all decided to call at the same time later in the evening, some grand coordinated effort to surprise me. But as the hours crawled by, that excuse began to crumble. Breakfast passed, then lunch, then mid-afternoon. Nothing. No, happy birthday. No, we love you. Not even a lazy emoji from a cousin. And that's when the truth began to settle into my chest like a stone. I wasn't forgotten by accident. I was forgotten on purpose. But what they didn't know, what they could never have expected, was that the silence would break in a way none of them could ignore. At exactly 6:03 p.m., I posted a picture to Instagram, my brand new $470,000 Ferrari gleaming in the evening light, scarlet red, polished to perfection, parked right outside my house. Within minutes, my phone vibrated violently. 88 missed calls stacked one after the other, flooding my screen. Suddenly, everyone who had abandoned me earlier that day wanted my attention. To understand why that moment hit so hard, you have to know a little about me. I wasn't born into money. I wasn't handed opportunities. My parents raised me with the kind of strict discipline that valued appearances over affection. I grew up in a house where success was measured by how much you could contribute to the family name, not by how much you were loved. From the age of 16, I worked jobs most teenagers wouldn't even consider. Dishwasher at a greasy diner, overnight stocker at a supermarket, part-time janitor cleaning office floors that executives walked on without ever noticing me. While my friends were at parties or traveling, I was clocking double shifts, scraping grease off plates, and stuffing paychecks into a savings account I swore one day would free me. College? I paid for it myself. Loans, scholarships, more shifts than any student should have handled. When I graduated, no one from my family came to clap for me as I walked across the stage. My father said, "It's just a piece of paper. Don't expect a medal." That was my life. Constant effort, little recognition, and the gnawing hunger to prove, to them, to myself, that I mattered. So, when my 35th birthday rolled around, I thought, just maybe, things would be different. I had finally made it. Years of grinding, of working late nights building a business from scratch, of investing when everyone told me I was insane, had finally paid off. I wasn't just comfortable. I was successful. The Ferrari wasn't about vanity. It wasn't about showing off. It was about arrival. Proof that I hadn't just survived, I had thrived. It was the symbol I had promised myself back when I was scrubbing floors and counting coins in a jar. And yet, on the very day I thought my family would at least acknowledge me, they delivered a silence so loud it drowned out every good thing I had achieved. I sat alone in my kitchen, staring at a half-melted store-bought cake I had bought for myself the night before. One candle, not even lit. No balloons, no singing voices, no laughter bouncing off the walls. Just me, a quiet house, and the gnawing reminder that the people who should have cared the most chose not to. I tried to push the bitterness away, telling myself maybe they were busy, maybe they forgot. But deep down, I knew better. They hadn't forgotten. They had ignored me. I poured myself a glass of whiskey and sat at the dining table, scrolling mindlessly through social media. Picture after picture of acquaintances celebrating birthdays with families, friends, spouses. Cakes layered with frosting, children blowing out candles, hands clapping in joy. And then there was me, 35, alone, the hum of the refrigerator my only companion. I thought back to past birthdays. My 12th, when my mother promised a party but canceled last minute because she said money was tight, only for me to overhear her telling a friend later she just didn't want the hassle. My 21st, when I waited all night at a restaurant for my family to show up, only to get a text that said, "Something came up. Happy birthday." The pattern had always been there. But for some reason, I believed this year would be different. I believed success would finally buy me the recognition I'd craved all my life. Instead, the silence cut deeper than any insult. That's when I made my decision. I wasn't going to call them, wasn't going to beg for acknowledgement, wasn't going to cry into my half-melted cake. If they wanted to ignore me, fine. But I'd remind them, loudly, unmistakably, of exactly who I had become without them. I walked outside, the evening sun dipping low, painting the sky in streaks of orange and purple. There it was, my Ferrari. Brand new, every curve sharp, every line perfect. The car wasn't just metal and wheels. It was my blood, sweat, and tears molded into a masterpiece. I crouched, angled my phone just right, caught the reflection of the fiery sunset bouncing off the hood. The shot was breathtaking. With one tap, it was uploaded. Caption simple, "Happy 35th to me." For a moment, silence. I almost laughed, thinking maybe they'd ignore this too. Maybe even the Ferrari wasn't enough to break their wall of apathy. Then the phone buzzed. Once, twice, then an avalanche. Notifications stacked faster than I could clear them. Text after text. Call after call. 88 in total. From cousins, siblings, even my parents. Some messages frantic, some apologetic, some downright manipulative. "Happy birthday." "Sorry, we got caught up, but wow, when did you get the car?" "Call me right now." "Why didn't you tell us you were buying that? We should celebrate." "Brother, don't ignore me. Let's talk. Dad wants to speak to you, urgent." The same people who couldn't be bothered to say two simple words all day were now clawing at my attention. And as I watched the calls light up, one after the other, I leaned back in my chair and smiled bitterly. For the first time in my life, I realized something with perfect clarity. They didn't care about me. They cared about what I had. That night, I didn't answer a single call. I let them pile up, 88 in total, like a mountain of hypocrisy stacked against them. Instead, I sat in silence, staring at the gleaming Ferrari through the window, the car that had exposed the truth once and for all. Tomorrow, I promised myself I'd respond, but not in the way they expected. If my family wanted to come back into my life, it wouldn't be on their terms anymore. It would be on mine. The silence of that birthday wasn't born in a single day. It was the culmination of months, no years, of friction, jealousy, and unspoken wounds that had been festering between me and my family. Looking back, it was almost inevitable. The distance hadn't appeared out of nowhere. It had been building like a storm cloud, darkening gradually until one day the skies broke open. Over the last year, as my business began to truly thrive, I noticed subtle shifts in the way my family spoke to me. Where there should have been pride, there was suspicion. Where there should have been encouragement, there was sarcasm. At family dinners, whenever I spoke about new contracts, upcoming ventures, or milestones, their responses were flat, sometimes even mocking. "That's nice," my mother would say, her tone clipped, as if success were a flavorless dish she had no appetite for. "You better not get cocky," my father would add, wagging a finger, as though ambition was a disease he needed to keep in check. And my siblings, God bless them, never missed an opportunity to poke at me. "You think you're better than us now?" my brother once asked after I'd mentioned buying new office equipment. "Don't forget where you came from," my sister snapped when I politely declined to lend her money for a vacation she couldn't afford. It wasn't just words. It was the way their eyes hardened when I entered the room. The way conversations halted, then resumed in hushed tones once I was seated. The way jokes turned into veiled insults. But truth be told, this wasn't new. My family had been dismissing my dreams for as long as I could remember. When I was 15, I told them I wanted to start my own business someday. My father chuckled as though I had said I wanted to be an astronaut. "Stick to something real," he said. You're not built for that. At 18, when I stayed up late reading books on finance and entrepreneurship instead of watching TV, my mother scolded me. You're wasting your youth. Why can't you be like your cousins? They're enjoying life. At 22, I announced I was turning down a safe office job to pursue my own venture. My brother laughed so hard he nearly spilled his drink. A business owner? You'll be crawling back in a month. But I didn't crawl back. I worked harder. I pushed through rejection after rejection. I lost money, learned lessons, and started again. Every failure became fuel, every mockery became motivation. Still, no matter what I achieved, they rarely showed up for me. When I opened my first small office, inviting the whole family for the ribbon cutting, only one cousin came. Everyone else claimed they were busy. When I won a regional entrepreneurship award, my father said, "It's not like it's national." When I landed my first big contract, my sister rolled her eyes. Let's see how long that lasts. And birthdays? They had been rocky for years. My 25th was forgotten completely. My 30th? They all sent texts at midnight, but not one person came to visit, even though they lived within an hour's drive. The truth was clear. Unless they needed something from me, they rarely acknowledged my existence. But the months leading up to my 35th birthday were especially tense. I had finally broken through. My business wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Contracts doubled. Revenue soared. My name began circulating in circles that once felt unreachable. Instead of celebrating, my family grew colder. At Thanksgiving, when I offered to host, my mother shot me down. "We'll keep it at your sister's. Your place is too fancy." At Christmas, I gave everyone thoughtful gifts. A tablet for my niece's schooling, a paid vacation package for my parents, a new laptop for my brother. Their reactions were unsettling. "That's too much," my father grumbled. "You trying to make us feel small?" my sister sneered. "This isn't necessary," my mother said coldly, leaving the box unopened. It wasn't gratitude I received, it was suspicion. As if generosity were an attack. Then came the subtle punishments. Group chats that once included me suddenly went quiet. Family barbecues forgot to invite me. My calls went unanswered more often than not. When I confronted my brother, asking why everyone seemed distant, he shrugged. "Don't take it personal. We just don't know how to relate to you anymore." Relate to me? Because I worked hard and built a life for myself? Because I no longer asked them for money, rides, or favors? That's when I realized envy had become the poison dripping into every interaction. So when my birthday arrived and no one reached out, I wasn't shocked. But surprised? Still, the coordination of the silence gnawed at me. This wasn't just forgetfulness. It felt deliberate, planned. Had they spoken to each other beforehand? Did someone say, "Don't call him, don't text him. Let's see what he does"? Was it manipulation? Punishment for not bending to their will, for not funding their lifestyles, for daring to succeed without them? Or was it jealousy? A quiet rebellion, a way to tell me, "You may have money, but you don't have us." Whatever it was, the message was clear. They wanted me to feel small again. They wanted me to know that no matter what I achieved, in their eyes, I was still the same boy whose dreams they mocked. By late afternoon, I sat alone in my living room, scrolling through old photos. There was my 28th birthday, me blowing out candles on a cake I had bought for myself, with no family in sight. There was my 32nd, a grainy picture of me holding up a drink at a bar, surrounded by acquaintances, not loved ones. And now, 35, wealthy, successful, yet lonelier than ever. A question haunted me. If family doesn't celebrate you in your wins, are they really family? That question lit something inside me. For years, I had tolerated their indifference. I had swallowed their insults. I had convinced myself that one day, success would force them to see me differently. But maybe it wasn't me who needed to change. Maybe it was them. That's when the idea came. The test. A simple, undeniable test. If they could ignore me all day, let's see if they could ignore me when faced with something they craved, status, wealth, proof that I had succeeded without them. I didn't need to beg for their attention. I didn't need to dial their numbers. All I had to do was post a picture. One picture. One car. One symbol. My $470,000 Ferrari. As the sun dipped low, I walked outside, my heart pounding not with fear but with clarity. I angled the camera just right, catching the gleam of sunset bouncing off the hood. The car looked like liquid fire. I hovered over the post button, my thumb trembling slightly. This was more than a photo. This was the line in the sand. Would they keep their silence? Or would they reveal the truth I had long suspected, that they didn't care about me, only about what I had? I tapped share. And with that single act, the test had begun. At first, nothing happened. Just silence. The screen refreshed, the photo now glowing in my feed. A handful of likes trickled in from acquaintances, colleagues, a couple of old classmates who always lurked in the background of my life. Then, at exactly 6:03 p.m., the phone buzzed once. A message notification. Then another. Then a call. The quiet hum of my house erupted into a storm of sound. Buzz, ding, ring. Over and over, louder, faster, stacking one on top of the other until my phone vibrated like it was alive. By the time I looked down, there were 5 missed calls. Then 10. Then 20. Texts flooded the screen so fast I couldn't keep up. Happy birthday. Sorry, I meant to call earlier. Bro, what's this I'm seeing? Call me back now. Is that your car? When did this happen? Dad says pick up the phone. It's urgent. Why didn't you tell us about this? We should celebrate together. Within 20 minutes, the number climbed to 88 missed calls. 88. More attention than I had received in the last year combined, all triggered by a single picture. It was almost funny. That morning, my existence hadn't been worth a 2-second text. Now, my phone wouldn't stop screaming. They weren't worried about me. They weren't curious about my well-being. They wanted access to what the car represented: success, wealth, the shiny proof that I had made it. The hypocrisy of it nearly made me laugh. Nearly. But the laughter caught in my throat, twisted into something darker. Was this what family meant to them? Not loyalty. Not love. Just interest when something flashy was at stake. I leaned back on the couch, letting the calls roll in. I had no intention of answering. Not yet. I scrolled through the messages. Some tried to mask the desperation with sweetness. We should throw you a party. Make up for today. You know we love you, right? We were just busy. Others were more blunt. You could have told us about the car. We're family. Are you sure you can handle payments on that thing? Maybe I can help manage it for you. And then, buried among the flood, one that made my jaw tighten. You've changed. Don't forget where you came from. There it was, the resentment peeking through, the subtle accusation that my success was an insult to them. The phone kept buzzing, relentless. 88 calls, 112 texts. My name was suddenly important again. But instead of feeling vindicated, I felt strangely hollow. All the validation I had once craved, there it was, stacked in digital form on my screen. And it felt empty, cheap, conditional. I sat in silence, staring out the window at the Ferrari, its red body glowing under the porch light. The car was proof of how far I'd come. But tonight, it had also revealed how shallow the ties I once trusted truly were. Finally, curiosity got the better of me. I opened my voicemail. The first message played, a voice I knew too well, my older brother. Normally, his tone was sharp, cocky, dripping with sarcasm. But now his voice trembled. Message 1. My brother. Hey, listen. Call me back. Please. I don't care about the car, okay? There are things you don't know. The family's upset. Don't shut us out yet. His voice wobbled on please. My brother didn't do please. He did orders, jabs, victory laps. The tremble wasn't guilt, it was fear of losing access. I let it pass into the next one. Message 2, my cousin K. Bro, happy birthday. We were just busy, you know how life gets. But yo, this car? Fire. When are you taking me for a spin? Also, maybe you can come through this weekend? We're having a small thing. Bring the ride. Busy. That word had done a lot of heavy lifting in my family. It meant we didn't care enough to show up. Now it meant we care because there's something to benefit from. Message 3, Aunt Lila. You should have told us you bought that car. Big purchases like that, you keep them in the family. We look out for each other. You know how people talk. Next time, call me first. Next time. As if there had been a last time she'd celebrated with me. As if risk management were a form of love. A soft inhale. No greeting. We saw your post. Your father, he's quiet. I wish you had called. Things have been tense. You know how pride is in this family. Anyway, happy birthday. God keep you. Call me. She said, happy birthday, the way some people say, weather's fine. I replayed the pause before it. That pause wasn't love trying to break through. It was calculation clicking into place. Message 5. You think this impresses me? A car? That's not wealth. That's liability. You want to prove you're a man? Handle your responsibilities. Your uncle's business is in trouble. Your mother's been worried about bills. You know where you came from. Call me. Responsibilities. Not my thoughts. My success was a public resource, apparently. They'd ghosted my birthday, but my wallet had an open door policy. Message 6, sister. Okay, wow. First of all, happy birthday. Second, are you serious? A $470,000 car? That's reckless. Sell it. Dad's in debt. He won't tell you, but we all know. You made it so. That's what family does. No apology. Just a budget plan for my life. I felt my jaw set. They were offended that I hadn't asked them how to spend the money they never earned. Messages 7 to 12, uncles, aunts, cousins. A pattern emerged, syrup first, claws second. Proud of you, kid. When can we talk about an investment? Your post had people calling me. Not good. You need to move smarter. Happy birthday, champ. The neighborhood's not safe for that kind of car. Park it at my place. I've got cameras. He didn't. Come by Sunday. Bring the Ferrari. The boys will love it. I muted the speaker and let the messages spin by without sound, watching waveform after waveform. There was a rhythm in the noise, guilt, fake warmth, rage, entitlement, repeat. A family choir singing different notes to the same melody. We missed your birthday, but now that we've seen what you have, we're ready to be involved. I scrolled to the texts. Screens worth of them. We were just busy. Happy birthday, bro. You should have told us you bought that car. Sell it. Dad's in debt. You should help. I know a guy who can register it out of state, save you money. Call me. We thought you weren't doing anything, that's why we didn't call. Next year we'll plan. This is why people don't like you, you flaunt. Don't forget where you came from. There it was again. Don't forget where you came from. As if gratitude required a tax. As if success demanded an apology. I set the phone down and rubbed my eyes. Vindication and disgust sat side by side in my chest like unwelcome guests. Part of me wanted to laugh at the predictability, part of me wanted to throw the phone into the yard. The house hummed with the quiet you hear only after a storm. The Ferrari outside looked unreal under the porch light, lava cooled into metal. My victory. My target. I picked the phone back up and let the rest of the voicemails roll. Message 13. Cousin Marcus, the friendliest hustler. Fam. That's a machine. Listen, I've got this idea. Short-term rentals to music videos, weddings. You park it at my place, I handle logistics. You pocket 70%. Think about it. Opportunity knocks. Opportunity never knocked at Marcus's door without bringing a crowbar. Message for Rose, the moralist. You're blessed, and I thank God for that. But pride comes before a fall. Be careful how you showcase. The devil sees. People see. The wolves come. Keep it in the family. We'll guide you. Guide me. They'd never guided me to a lecture hall, to a bank, to a job interview. But now they were expert navigators. Message 15. Mom again. Your father doesn't like how it looks. We are getting calls. Your uncle says people are curious. Curiosity can be dangerous. Call your father. Please. I listened for the sentence that never arrived. I'm sorry we didn't call earlier. I'm sorry we hurt you. It wasn't there. It wouldn't be. Message 16. Neighbor, unexpected. Hey, it's Luis next door. Happy birthday, man. Saw the post in the car. Not my business, but your family came by earlier? They knocked when you were out. Left kind of upset. Just keep your doors locked tonight. Interesting. I hadn't been out. Either he mixed up the day, or someone else had come by before the post. The timeline itched at me. Message 17. Sister again, text. You need to stop ignoring us. It's childish. Call Dad now. They'd ignored me all day. Minutes after the Ferrari photo, my silence became childish. I chuckled despite myself. Hypocrisy wasn't just present, it was punctual. I put the phone face down and stared at the ceiling. A thought kept circling back. What if the birthday silence had been a coordinated punishment? A lesson. Someone had suggested no one reach out, make me sweat, make me chase. Then the Ferrari shattered the plan and outed the motive. The mask slipped when money entered the room. I got up, filled a glass of water, and let the cold sit on my tongue. Anger buzzed, but under it was something heavier, grief. Not for what my family was, but for what they refused to be. The phone buzzed again. A new voicemail. Message 18 from Baby, I tried calling earlier. My phone's been acting up. Happy birthday. I love you. I don't understand the car, but if it makes you smile, it's good. Come see me when you can. I exhaled. One voice, clear, soft, honest. No angle. No accounting. Just love. It was a thin thread, but it held like steel. I scrolled back to my brother's first message. The tremble, the things you don't know. I played it again. Then I opened his second. Message 19, brother, second attempt. Okay, you're mad. Fine. But don't do this over the phone. Can we talk? Tonight. I'll come by. Or tomorrow, breakfast. There's the stuff with Dad. With the house. Just call me. Stuff with Dad. The house. The car had sucked the oxygen out of the room and revealed the smoke. Messages from other siblings chimed in. We didn't coordinate anything. Stop assuming the worst. If you're going to be dramatic, do it with us, not online. It's not about the car. It's about how you made us look. There was the real offense. Not the purchase, not the silence, but image. Public image had always trumped private honesty in our family. I'd exposed the gap between what they preached and what they practiced. I stood, crossed to the window, and watched a moth bump itself silly against the porch light. Over and over. The image felt too familiar. Enough. I wasn't going to be led by voicemails, accusations, or investment pitches. If there were things I didn't know, I'd hear them. But on my terms. I picked up the phone and opened the family group chat. The last message before tonight's flood was from 3 days ago. A meme, 2 laughing emojis, and silence. I typed, tomorrow, 7 p.m. Neutral place, the foundry, private room. Ground rules. 1. We start with the birthday. 2. We speak one at a time. 3. No shouting. 4. We tell the truth. 5. We keep hands off my finances unless I ask. If you can't agree, don't come. I hit send and muted the thread. Within seconds. What's the foundry? Private room? Who do you think you are? I can't make 7. Make it 6. Agree to the rules. I'll be there. This is unnecessary. Call Dad first. I didn't reply. Negotiation by text had made this family sloppy and brave. If they wanted to talk, they could look me in the eye and do it. My sister pinged directly. You're being extra. Just come to the house. I replied. Neutral ground. Or nothing. She left me on read. The irony almost made me smile. My brother's name lit up, the first live call I'd consider. I didn't answer. I sent a text. Foundry. 7. Come on time. 3 dots. They vanished. Vanished again. Finally. But hear Dad out. I locked the phone and set it face down again. The house seemed to relax around me once the decision settled. I wiped the counter, put the empty glass in the sink, and turned off the kitchen light. The Ferrari outside glowed for a second like an ember, then cooled in the dark. On my way to the bedroom, I passed the mirror in the hall. For the first time that night, I looked at myself, Not the avatar on the feed, not the reflection in the paint. Just me. Tired, yes. Angry, but clear. This would not be another scene at someone else's table, with someone else setting the rules, counting my pockets, shaming my choices. If they wanted a conversation, they'd walk into a room I chose, follow rules I set, and speak to the person I'd become, not the boy they tried to keep small. In bed, the phone throbbed on the nightstand with the occasional text. The old reflex to appease tugged at me, call mom back, call dad back, keep the peace, don't make waves. But peace built on erasure isn't peace. It's quiet surrender. I turned the phone face down again and focused on the ceiling. Tomorrow wouldn't fix years. It might not fix anything. But it would tell the truth in the only language families like mine respect, boundaries backed by composure. The last buzz before sleep was from Grandma. I don't like restaurants. Too loud. But I'm praying. God keep you. Call me after. I typed back in the dark. I will. I love you. When morning came, the air felt lighter, like the house had opened a window I hadn't noticed. I made coffee, answered 2 work emails, and ignored the group chats back and forth about parking, dress code, and whether private rooms were pretentious. At noon, I drove the Ferrari, because I wanted to, out toward the edge of town. I kept it under the limit, felt the engines hum through the seat, let the road's white lines steady my breathing. Not a parade. Not a performance. A reminder, I'd earned the right to enjoy my life without a jury. Halfway to the river road, my brother called again. I answered this time. 7, I said. 7, he echoed. He's coming. Good. You bringing the car? I'm bringing myself. He was quiet for a moment. All right. He hung up before I could. Old habit, he always took the last word. Tonight he wouldn't have it. I turned around at the overlook, let the valley sit with me a minute, then headed home to change. The Foundry's private room was booked. The ground rules were set. The flood of voices would have a door and a frame. I straightened my collar, glanced once at the car keys, and left them on the table. Tonight wasn't about horsepower. It was about spine. I locked the door behind me and stepped into the early evening air, the kind of blue that turns the edges of buildings soft. For the first time since the birthday began, I felt ready, not to fight, but to stand. I wasn't chasing anyone. I wasn't proving anything. I was choosing the terms. And if they showed up to negotiate my worth again, they'd find out I'd already set the price, respect or distance. Either way, I'd be fine. The Foundry was no ordinary restaurant. Situated in the heart of the city, it was all steel beams and exposed brick, the kind of place where people came to make deals, not share laughter. I'd booked the private room in the back, the one with a long oak table, dim lighting, and walls thick enough to keep secrets inside. If my family wanted to talk, this was where it would happen. Not at my father's house where I grew up under his thumb. Not in my sister's kitchen where whispers carried faster than truth. Neutral ground. My ground. I arrived early, deliberately. The Ferrari stayed in the garage at home. I came in a rented sedan, plain as bread. Tonight wasn't about spectacle, it was about control. The host showed me to the private room. I placed my phone face down on the table, straightened my collar, and sat. The quiet gave me space to prepare, to rehearse the one thing I promised myself. Don't let them twist it. Don't let them make this about guilt. The door opened. My sister entered first, her smile too wide, her perfume too strong. There he is. Birthday boy. She crossed the room quickly, arms open, pulling me into a hug that felt rehearsed. Behind her came my brother, hands shoved in his pockets, his eyes scanning the room like a man entering enemy territory. My mother followed, her lips stretched into something between a smile and a grimace. Then my father, slower, deliberate, with that permanent air of judgment that never left his face. 2 cousins trailed in, loud and warm, as if they'd been celebrating me all week. Happy birthday, man. You didn't think we'd miss this, did you? I thought, you already did. The room filled with chatter. They pulled chairs, ordered drinks, complimented the decor. You've got good taste, Aunt Lila said, running a hand over the table's oak grain. You always did like fancy things, my father muttered, not loud enough for anyone else but clear enough for me. Plates clattered, menus opened. My sister leaned across the table, grinning. We should have done this earlier. Honestly, we all needed a reason to come together. And here you are, giving us one. You look good. Successful. Glowing even. Glowing. A word she had never once used in my direction before. The compliments kept coming, stacked like bricks, heavy and hollow. You've been working so hard, we're proud. You've done well for yourself. We just want to be closer. That's what family's for. Each word slid off me like oil. It didn't take long for the warmth to cool into what they really came for. So, my brother began, tapping his fingers on the table. About Dad. My father cleared his throat, feigning discomfort. My mother placed a hand over his. My sister sighed theatrically. There are debts, she said. Medical bills. Business loans. You know how it is. Times are tough. And, well, you're in a position now. You could help. There was the ask, dressed up as concern. My cousin Marcus chimed in, grinning as though he was offering me a gift. Think about it, man. You bail the family out now, you'll never have to worry about loyalty. Blood runs deep. We've got your back. I looked around the table. Every eye glowed with expectation. Not love. Not gratitude. Expectation. Family comes first, my aunt said softly, nodding as though she were pronouncing scripture. You wouldn't even have what you do without us, my father added, his voice sharp. We all sacrificed, my mother said. We let you chase your little dreams when you could have been helping us. Now it's your turn. I felt the weight of their stares pressing down, trying to corner me into guilt. My sister leaned forward again, her voice low, almost pleading. You don't want people thinking you've abandoned us. That's not who you are. You're better than that. Right? Every sentence was a hook baited with guilt. Every smile hid teeth. As they spoke, I watched their faces. My brother's jaw clenched every time money was mentioned. My sister's eyes flicked to my watch, my shoes, measuring, calculating. My father sat back, confident, as if this outcome were already assured. It wasn't anger I felt, it was clarity. The Ferrari post hadn't just exposed their hypocrisy, it had dragged their motives into the light. They hadn't ghosted me by mistake. They had ghosted me by design, a punishment for daring to live on my own terms. And now they were here, rehearsing lines about loyalty, unity, family. But family isn't something you demand when it's convenient. It's something you show, day by day, in the quiet ways that matter. I let them talk until the plates of food arrived. I didn't touch mine. I just sat, hands folded, letting their words pile up like evidence. Finally, when the last voice had fallen silent and the air grew thick with expectation, I reached into my bag and pulled out a thin folder. What's that? My sister asked, her smile twitching. Receipts, I said quietly. I slid the folder onto the table, opened it, and spread the contents out. A printed photo of me at my college graduation, cap on, smiling at the crowd. The empty seats where my family should have been were circled in red. A copy of the invitation I'd sent for my first office opening. RSVP lines blank under every family member's name. A picture from my 30th birthday, me alone at a bar, a cupcake with one candle in front of me, no one beside me. Screenshots of old group chats, my messages hanging unanswered while theirs carried on. A record of bank transfers not from them to me, but from me to them. Rent covered, medical bills paid, loans forgiven. The table went quiet. You talk about family first, I said. My voice was calm, steady. But these are the times I needed family. Where were you? No one moved. No one spoke. My father's jaw tightened. My sister's smile finally cracked. My mother reached for the papers but stopped halfway. I leaned back in my chair, meeting each of their eyes one by one. You came here tonight for money. But before we talk about what I can do for you, we're going to talk about what you never did for me. The silence thickened, heavy enough to choke on. And for the first time that evening, I saw something shift in their faces. Not guilt, not sorrow, but fear. The receipts were only the beginning. The table at the foundry had grown uncomfortably quiet. The folder of papers sat open in front of me, each memory spread out like evidence in a courtroom. My family, who had come into the room with wide smiles and rehearsed warmth, now shifted in their seats, avoiding my eyes. I let the silence hang for a long moment, then leaned forward. You want to talk about family? Fine. Let's talk about patterns. I held up the first photo. Me in my cap and gown, my smile stretched wide, the stage behind me glowing with spotlights. Around me, classmates were being smothered in hugs, their families clapping, cheering, throwing flowers. And me? Alone. You didn't come to my graduation, I said, my voice steady. Not one of you. I walked that stage by myself, shook the dean's hand, looked out into the crowd, and there was no one. You know what I told my friends who asked why no one came? I said you couldn't make the trip. But the truth. I set the photo down on the table, my gaze locking on my father. You just didn't care. My mother shifted in her chair, her lips parting like she might speak, but then closing again. Next, I slid forward a printed discharge form from a hospital. The bold letters stared back at them. 2 years ago, I collapsed from exhaustion. Spent 3 nights in the hospital. You all knew. I texted the group chat. Not one visit. Not one call. Nothing. My sister scoffed lightly, trying to recover ground. We didn't think it was serious. Not serious? I cut her off. Hooked up to IVs, unable to stand, doctors telling me I needed rest or I'd break down completely, and you couldn't even stop by for 15 minutes? But I remember that same week you all went to celebrate Cousin Daniel's new job at a bar downtown. You were all there for him. He hadn't even lasted 6 months at that job. The cousins shifted uncomfortably, eyes downcast. I reached for another memory. Remember when I opened my first office? No one answered. I invited you all. Sent emails, printed invites, even called. I thought maybe this time you'd show up, maybe you'd be proud. I flipped over the RSVP list, rows of names, each with blank spaces where replies should have been. Instead, you laughed. My brother told me it was a waste of money, that I'd never last a year. My sister told me to get a real job. My father, I turned toward him. You told me I was chasing shadows. I leaned back. That was 10 years ago. And those shadows built everything you see now. My father's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. I let the silence stretch again, then continued. You know what makes it worse? It wasn't that you couldn't show up. It's that you chose not to. Because when it was someone else, someone who didn't do half the work, I saw how you treated them. I pulled out another photo, Cousin Daniel, holding up a cheap Employee of the Month certificate at a local retail store. Smiling wide, surrounded by family. You all showed up for him. Balloons. Congratulations. He worked part-time stocking shelves and you treated it like he won an Olympic medal. But me? When I risked everything, when I built something from nothing, you laughed. I pushed the photo aside. It wasn't about schedules. It was about choice. And you chose who mattered. Finally, I tapped my phone awake and turned the screen toward them. The screenshots glowed under the dim light. This, I said, is the group chat. My texts. My calls. Left on read. I scrolled slowly so they could see message after message I had sent over the years. Hey guys, just checking in. Read, no reply. Thinking of hosting a dinner. Free on Saturday? Read, no reply. Had some good news today. Would love to share. Read, no reply. Dozens of messages, little lifelines I had thrown out, met with silence. And now suddenly, after I post one car, my phone doesn't stop ringing. The irony hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. No one looked at me. My sister fiddled with her napkin. My brother stared at the ceiling like the answers were written in the beams. My mother dabbed at her eyes though no tears fell. My father finally spoke, his voice sharp. You don't understand what it means to be part of this family. We don't parade around begging for attention. We endure quietly. We support each other when it matters. When it matters? I shot back. You mean when it benefits you? That's not family. That's convenience. My aunt shifted in her seat. You're being unfair. Families make mistakes. We're here now, aren't we? Yes, I said. You're here now. Not because you remembered my birthday. Not because you cared about me lying in a hospital bed. Not because you wanted to see my office succeed. You're here now because of a Ferrari. The words landed hard. I could see it in their eyes, the cracks forming, the excuses breaking down. But still, no apology. No one said, "You're right, we failed you." Instead, they doubled down. "We just want to be closer," my mother said. "You don't turn your back on family," my sister added. "Family comes first," my father repeated, like a mantra. I leaned forward, my voice calm but firm. "Family comes first. That's what you say. But tell me this, when did I ever come first?" The question cut through the room like a blade. No one had an answer. I gathered the papers back into the folder, stacked them neatly, and placed my hands on top. "You've shown me your definition of family. Silence when I needed you. Mockery when I worked. Praise for others while you ignored me. Then, the moment I succeed, you flood me with calls and demands." I paused, letting the weight settle. "If that's what family means to you, then I'll redefine what family means to me." Chairs creaked. My father bristled, my sister opened her mouth to protest, but I raised a hand. "This isn't anger talking. It's clarity. If family is just a contract of convenience, then I'm not signing it anymore. I'll choose my family. I'll choose the people who show up, who celebrate, who stand by me without conditions. If blood doesn't live up to that, then blood isn't enough." The silence that followed was the deepest yet. For once, they had no script, no chant of "family first" to shield them. The choice was mine now. And they knew it. The air in the private room had grown so heavy it was hard to breathe. The folder of receipts sat between us, a silent witness to every unspoken truth. My words still lingered. "If this is what family means to you, I'll redefine what family means to me." For a long moment, no one moved. Then my father leaned forward, his knuckles pressed against the table as if holding back a storm. His voice came low, gravelly but clear. "You're right," he said. "We didn't respect you." The words hit the table like a hammer. My mother's head snapped toward him, her eyes wide. My sister froze, lips parted in shock. Even my cousins went still, their rehearsed expressions slipping into raw discomfort. My father continued. "We didn't respect you until now. We thought your dreams were foolish. We thought you'd fall flat and come crawling back. We thought," he exhaled through his nose, "we thought you needed us. But now we see you don't." The admission wasn't relief. It wasn't apology. It was envy finally spoken aloud. I leaned back in my chair, my composure unshaken. "So let me understand," I said evenly. "Now that there's money, a Ferrari, a lifestyle you can point to, you respect me? That's what it took." No one answered. My father looked down at his hands. My mother bit her lip. I shook my head. Respect built on envy isn't respect. It's hunger. It's desperation dressed up as admiration. And it's worth nothing to me. The words settled hard. My sister fidgeted with her napkin. One cousin reached for his water glass but didn't drink. The tension was so sharp it leaked beyond the walls. The private room wasn't perfectly sealed, and the volume of our voices had climbed without any of us noticing. Through the glass, I caught the gaze of a server who froze mid-step, her eyes darting back to her tray. Beyond her, diners had turned their heads, curious about the voices rising in anger and pain. It no longer felt like a family discussion. It felt like a courtroom, a reckoning on display. My father's voice rose. "You sit there with your folder and your car and your smugness. You think you've won? You think success erases the fact that you abandoned us when you left." I met his glare without flinching. "I didn't abandon you. I built myself. There's a difference. Abandonment is what you did every time you ghosted me. Every time you ignored me when it mattered most." My mother tried to interject, her tone pleading. "We just didn't know how to handle it. You were moving too fast, too far. We couldn't keep up." "That's not an excuse," I said sharply. "Plenty of families don't understand every choice their children make. But they still show up. They still call. They still celebrate the victories. You didn't. You chose silence." One cousin muttered under his breath, "Maybe we were jealous." The room turned toward him. He shrugged, uncomfortable. "What? It's true. He did what none of us could. Of course we resented it. My sister snapped, "That's not the point." But I cut in. "It is the point. You resented me. You wanted me small. Because me succeeding meant you had to face your own failures. And now, the only way you know how to engage with me is to demand access. That's not family. That's opportunism." My father slammed his hand against the table, the plates rattling. "Enough. You've made your point. We get it, you don't need us." "No," I said quietly, standing. "You don't get it. You've never gotten it." My chair scraped against the floor as I rose, my voice carrying with a calmness that silenced even the murmurs outside the room. "You ghosted me when I needed you most. When I graduated. When I lay in a hospital bed. When I built something out of nothing. You had 1,000 chances to show up, and you chose silence every single time. And now? Now you crowd this table because of a car." I looked around the room one last time, letting my eyes rest on each of them. My father's clenched jaw. My mother's trembling hands. My sister's defiance cracking into shame. My cousin's restless guilt. Then I spoke the line I had been holding in since the moment I pressed post on that photo. "You ghosted me when it mattered most," I said, my voice steady, deliberate, loud enough for the server outside to hear. I reached for my jacket. "Now it's my turn." The room froze. And with that, I walked toward the door. The door of the foundry closed behind me with a heavy thud, muffling the rising arguments inside. For a moment, I just stood in the cool evening air, breathing it in, letting the silence wash over me like a tide. My hands trembled, not from fear, not from regret, but from the weight of release. Behind me, I could hear muffled voices through the thick walls. My family hadn't followed me out yet. They were too busy arguing among themselves, dividing into camps, tearing at each other the way they'd always torn at me. When I finally turned back through the glass window of the private room, I caught sight of them. My sister was red-faced, shouting at my brother, her hands slicing the air. My cousins whispered to each other, heads low, their confidence drained. My mother sat with her face in her hands, rocking slightly. And my father, stone still, jaw locked, glaring at the folder of receipts as though staring long enough might erase them. The division was clear. A few were rattled, visibly ashamed, maybe even regretful. Others were angry, bitter, unwilling to yield. And some just looked lost, caught between the lies they had lived and the truth they couldn't deny. For the first time, their conflict wasn't mine to carry. I walked to the rented sedan, its plain frame almost comical after the storm that had just unfolded. When I slid into the driver's seat, I didn't start the engine right away. Instead, I pulled out my phone. Dozens of messages pinged in. I put the phone face down on the console. Their words no longer had the power. The drive home was quiet, but inside me, something shifted. For years, I had blurred the line between family and obligation. I had given handouts, loans that were never repaid, bills that were never acknowledged, second chances that only invited more disappointment. No more. That night marked the end of begging, the end of handouts, the end of tolerating a family that showed up only when it was convenient. I would help those who helped themselves. I would open my door to those who walked in with honesty, not empty hands stretched for what was mine. But the days of me being the safety net for their poor choices were over. If they wanted to see me, they'd see me as I was, not as an atom, not as a scapegoat, not as the boy they once mocked. When I pulled into my driveway, the Ferrari gleamed under the porch light like it had been waiting for me. Its scarlet body looked almost alive, the curves catching the moonlight like liquid fire. I stepped out of the sedan and stood there, staring at it. For weeks, I had thought of the Ferrari as the pinnacle, the prize I had promised myself after years of grinding in silence. I had believed it was the victory, the proof that I had finally made it. But tonight had changed everything. The car wasn't just a machine or a symbol of wealth anymore. It had become something greater, a mirror. It reflected my independence, my refusal to bow, my clarity about what really mattered. It hadn't bought me respect. It had revealed who respected me for real, and who only respected what I could give them. I leaned against the hood, the cool metal grounding me. For years, I had been chasing validation from the very people who had never intended to give it. I thought the car would silence their doubts, erase their mockery, force them to finally see me. And in a twisted way, it had. They saw me that night, not the boy who begged for their attention, but the man who had carved a life without them. Their masks had slipped. Their excuses had cracked. Their hunger had been laid bare. And that was the real victory. Not the car. Not the bank account. Not the photo on Instagram. The real win was seeing their masks drop. The next morning, my phone buzzed endlessly again. Apologies, threats, demands, pleas. Some wanted to meet privately, others accused me of tearing the family apart. A cousin even posted online about how money changes people, trying to paint me as the villain. I didn't reply. I didn't defend myself. For the first time, I felt no need to explain. I brewed coffee, sat at my kitchen table, and opened the curtains wide. The Ferrari sat outside, catching the sunrise. For once, I didn't see it as a trophy. I saw it as a boundary line, a red barrier between my old life and my new one. That day, I began making changes. I canceled the auto payments for loans I had been covering quietly. I drew up new policies for my business. No more family discounts, no more favors disguised as opportunities. I blocked a handful of numbers, the loudest manipulators, the ones who had never once spoken to me without an agenda. For the rest, I left the door ajar, but only just. If they wanted in, they would have to walk in with humility, with truth, with actions that matched their words. And if they didn't, I would still stand. That night, I poured a glass of whiskey and sat on my porch, staring at the horizon. I thought the car was the victory, I whispered to myself. But the real win was seeing their masks drop. The Ferrari was polished steel, yes. But it was also a revelation. It had stripped away illusions, exposed truths, and forced me to choose myself over their conditional loyalty. For the first time in years, I felt light. Not because I had a car in the driveway, but because I had finally found my spine. They had ghosted me when it mattered most. And now I had ghosted them in return, not out of spite, but out of survival. The fallout didn't happen all at once. Families rarely collapse like houses of cards. They crumble like walls, brick by brick. In the days that followed the confrontation, I watched as those bricks shifted. My phone filled with a mixed storm of messages, some bitter, some remorseful, and a few surprisingly genuine. My cousin Kay texted first. "I'm sorry. I should have been there for you all along. The car just made me realize how much I've missed. Can we start over?" My sister, however, doubled down. "You humiliated us in public. You think success makes you better than us, but it doesn't. Don't forget who you owe." The division was sharp. Some wanted to repair, others wanted to cling to the old power dynamic. For the first time, I realized their responses didn't define me anymore. I began drafting new rules for my life. No more handouts to those who had mocked me. No more rescuing people who only appeared in my life when they needed saving. No more confusing family ties with unconditional loyalty. From now on, relationships would be built on trust, consistency, and presence, not bloodlines alone. And in those rules, I discovered freedom. One evening, I stood in the driveway, staring at the Ferrari. Its red body gleamed in the last light of the sun. For weeks, I had treated it like a trophy, the final proof that I had arrived. But now I saw it differently. It wasn't wealth on wheels. It was independence made visible. This machine hadn't earned me their respect. It had exposed their envy. It hadn't made them call me. It had shown how conditional their silence had always been. And in that way, it became more than a car. It became a symbol of boundaries, of choosing myself, of refusing to be defined by who failed me. Slowly, I turned toward people who had been steady all along. Friends who had sent me quiet congratulations without expectation. Mentors who had answered calls at midnight when I doubted myself. Even neighbors who had shown more care in 5 minutes than my blood relatives had in 5 years. These people became my chosen family. Together we celebrated wins, shared meals, and spoke honestly. No masks. No games. No ledger of debts and repayments. I also began giving back but differently. Not to relatives who saw me as a bank, but to strangers who reminded me of myself years ago. Hungry, overlooked, doubted. I donated quietly to a scholarship fund. I partnered with a local youth center, helping kids chase their own impossible dreams. The more I gave in these new directions, the lighter I felt. Because this time, it wasn't obligation. It was choice. One night, as I sat on my porch with the Ferrari's keys in hand, the thought came clear as day. They called me 88 times when they saw the Ferrari. But the truth is, I stopped waiting for their call years ago. That was the victory, not the car, not the applause, not even the confrontation. The victory was freedom from the craving that had chained me for decades, the craving for their approval. I no longer needed it. Outro CTA and warm closing. Thank you so much for watching and staying with us until the very end of this story. It means more than words can say, and we truly feel blessed to share these moments with you. If you found this story meaningful, please give it a like, share it with someone who may need it, and subscribe if you haven't already. Each bit of support helps us continue bringing you stories of justice, resilience, and truth, and we believe God will bless you for it. We'd love to hear your thoughts as well. What do you think was the real turning point in today's story? Drop your answer in the comments. We read every single one. And remember, another incredible story is coming soon. So stay connected, because each one carries a lesson, a spark of truth, and a reminder that resilience always has the final word. Until next time, may peace and blessings be with you always.